Hello. How are you? Yeah? Temperature down just a little bit now? Cool, thank you very much for coming. My name is Tony Wachiku. I am the founder and CEO of an organisation called CDR, Create, Define, Release. We've been around for just over 23 years now. And the point of CDR is to create an opportunity for producers and artists to come together to learn about music production, share what they're working on, compare reverb, tails, and compression. 4.1 works best and 2.1, depending on the kick drum you're working on. You get my point. But a lot of the time, what I really like is having an opportunity to speak and have conversations with producers and artists that are going to shape our world of electronic music. And this man to my left is pretty much at the top of the list. Give it up for Carl Craig.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
How are you, mister?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
Yeah, doing
You were in Ibiza last night, I hear.
That's right. I was over there. Yes. We were just having a conversation because every summer that I play, I have to do something a little corny, a little touristy. So last night I played my set in a hat that looks like this, but it says Ibiza on both sides in huge letters. So yeah, I don't think I'm giving Final Boss a run for his money, but you know, definitely
close second. So you're often referred to as this kind of legend or kind of like pioneer of, you know, second wave of Detroit producers, artists, etc. What's it like to kind of live with that on a day-to-day basis in this current climate?
I just live, you know, I do what I do, and, you know, my goal is always to outdo myself, to do something better. You know, I don't try to sit on trying to make the same record over and over again, you know, so that's kind of a pitfall. That's a huge pitfall for a lot of artists, is that you're always chasing the last hit, you know, and Quincy Jones used to say, sometimes you just got to wait for God to walk through the room. And, you know, sometimes it takes 5 years before God walks through the room and you can make something new again, you know. So yeah.
So let's go, you know, back to the beginning, I guess. My understanding is that your first instrument was guitar, right? Yeah?
Yeah, pretty much.
So is there a possibility that you could have taken a different route to, you know, to techno and been like, you know, Craig and, you know, Carl and the Craigettes or something in some rock band or something? Or some Motown review band or something. Is that possible?
Yeah, you know, when I was playing guitar, I was playing with a band. We were like a sister band of RJ's latest arrival. And what I noticed was that, you know, one of their main guitarists, during the day he worked at the plant. So I'm much happier with my job because I don't have to work at the plant and then
Absolutely.
you know, have my passion at night. I have my passion all day long, you know.
So I guess you were drew to the machines pretty much straight away, right?
Yeah, definitely. As a kid, there were a few toys that I really begged my parents for. One of them was this bazooka that had headphones and you could hear people from all the way across the street and whatever. And then the other was this oscillator, this toy oscillator that made siren sounds and zaps and all that stuff. So that on top of growing up in the time when Parliament Funkadelic was really putting synth into their music, when Computer World came out from Kraftwerk, that really blew the doors open, and then all that English new romantic stuff that was going on.
Human League, etc.
Yeah.
Depeche Mode, right?
My favorite, MK's favorite was Depeche Mode. My favorite, and it still is a track called Frequency 7 from Visage. And it's so outside of the box of anything that they've done. And it's the U.S. club mix. It's not a punky thing. It's like a really hard electronic thing that's crazy. And what I didn't realize with because with Frequency 7, it was a big Electrifying Mojo track, so he was playing it on the radio all the time, and I was had the opportunity to talk to Mojo on the phone and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, Derek May gave me that record." And it's like, "Oh shoot," I mean, I'm with the guy. The guy has inspired me without me even knowing that he's inspired. But then that record was a big Ron Hardy record in Chicago, and what put because their other stuff like Fade to Gray and stuff like that is great, but they had another one I think called Pleasure Boys, and Pleasure Boys was a big Miami bass record. So it's like kind of wild how it comes together like that. That you look at these, this guy trying to dress up like a pirate or something on the covers, or as a mime or whatever, and then they have like a couple of these heavy electronic records that are just crazy heavy.
Yeah, particularly when they did like a 12-inch mix or a dub mix or something, they made it much more club friendly. It was even more attractive, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I was talking to Chris and Cozy from Throbbing Gristle, and we did this whole thing with Mixmag years ago, and I was telling them about me and DJ Stingray in his basement listening to Throbbing Gristle records, in the hood in Detroit. And could they even grasp the concept that, they were doing this industrial, music from Sheffield or Manchester or whatever that, was kind of anti-punk in many cases. But could they imagine two brothers sitting in the basement just listening to these IBM modem sounds and them screaming on top, and it's pretty crazy. Growing up in Detroit for influence for music is maybe I mean outside I always relate the Electrifying Mojo to John Peel, and there's not many other radio guys that are like that have had that kind of power. And Mojo isn't considered a big influence on Detroit techno like Juan Atkins, but he's the guy who put Juan Atkins on, and I'm glad that I grew up in a time and was influenced in a time where there was so much crazy music out there that got picked up by him and played. And that's the thing about black radio in the U.S. is that black radio can be either closed-minded or open-minded. And his set was from 10 o'clock until 2 in the morning. So that's the open-minded time. The closed-minded time is when you're trying to get people to listen daytime. Yeah.
So I guess all this
Lost you. Yeah.
2-2. This mic's gone, by the way, this one. Yeah. So I'll use it for that. Thank you. So this open-mindedness late at night and Throbbing Gristle and Fade to Grey and this British, all this music was, I guess, inspired you to create your own, Planet E communications and bring out your own music, right? So at the early part of your career, you obviously released a label of created a label of your own. You were an artist and obviously got into DJing. How was it like navigating, developing your musical sound as 6ix9ine in the beginning, and running Planet E, and also, navigating the industry at that time?
I like how your voice boomed when I need to put my voice bigger now. When I started making music and I chased Kevin Saunderson down and Derek May down and all these guys to get my foot in the door and stuff. I knew that I had to do whatever it took in order to get my music to happen, but my goals were further. I wanted to be them. I didn't just want to be working for them. I wanted to be them. So the idea of having my own label was at the forefront of my mind, that I needed my independence as an artist. And with me starting the label, and I always talk about the amount of remixes that I've done, especially for major labels and stuff. I always looked at it like guerrilla warfare. I took their money to fund what I was doing. And it really worked, and it really helped. So I'm glad I did it. And even today, however I have to pay bills or whatever, it's still in order to keep everything functioning and longevity of the label itself. So making the music was something that was that I had to do, that I needed to do, and I needed that independence, A&R independence.
So we've got something from that time, a 6/9. Roll the track, please. So that was Desire from your Light Music EP from '94.
Right.
I have two questions on that.
Yeah.
So the string sound, one thing that was really, really novel about the string sound in that track, that it starts off quite rudimentary and then goes on this journey, as you heard. You also go, it's going, this gets nuts. In '94, that was like, oh my God, it's just like, that was quite, I won't say brave, but it was definitely different at its time. So what was your thinking behind the string line meandering in that way? And was it done as a single take? What was your approach to composition in at that time?
Yeah, so, by the way, how's everybody doing? Yeah, everybody all right? Because y'all looking good. You must be feeling good, right? All right. Oh, is that right? Is that your first time hearing us? All right, brother. Give it up for the DJ. The track is called Desire because it's it's my desire to do what I do, to get out of my parents' basement, to make the music and stuff. So the solo is desire. That's the desire. It's not necessarily the beats, not the bass. It's the solo. And yeah, it was all done straight to tape or straight to DAT at the time. Pushed the button, started playing, and
So no edits, just it was what it was.
it was what it was.
Yeah.
No multi-track, no nothing, just straight to it. The mix, everything, no edits, everything done straight to 2-track.
So apart from wanting to get out of your parents' basement, you know, kind of following the footsteps of Belleville Free et al.
Yeah.
What other aspirations did you have for your music and, you know, and the label?
I mean, I've always been a big fan of Quincy Jones. The diversity of music that Quincy produced. Derek and I used to sit on the floor of his loft with synthesizers and drum machines around us, and you know would daydream about making new soundtracks for Blade Runner, or new soundtracks for any sci-fi movies. So, you know, you have the 808 and the 909 and the Geno 106 and DX100 and all these, you know, Mirage and all this stuff sitting around. So we didn't think that we were actually living the real dream. We were living a dream that that Black Synthesis had before, you know, to be able to have all this gear at our fingertips and not have to give it back. We just go, push a button, go, boom. You know, so Mandre or, you know, other people that were working on Motown that were doing synthesizer music probably had to be in studios, and we were in a comfortable and intimate situation that we could do whatever we wanted to. So yeah, so the dream was to do soundtracks, and as time went on, I realized that I do not work well with taking instructions. So if you want any music for a movie, then either you let me do what I do or you pick from the catalog. Yeah.
Simples, yeah. This next track has a lot, very, very influential. Well, they're all influential tracks, but this one in particular. Can you play the next one from the beginning, please? Thank you. Yes, yes. So here's the thing, right? So I want you to take us back to your studio when you made that track. What was in front of you? What was the thought process behind making Bug in the Basement?
I had a girlfriend at the time. Is it? Oh, that's what you're laughing at. I thought, oh, he had a girlfriend? What? Yes, I had a girlfriend. Come on, man. Yeah, so I I I guess now you would consider squatting. Squatted her living room or something. I just took all my gear and put it in her living room. But she had this apartment that had floor-to-ceiling windows, and it looked onto Canada and onto the Detroit River. And sometimes there would be like warehouse fires that you could see from there. It was like really watching a movie through her windows. So like with Bug in the Basement, with Atlas, Micro Lover, Rushed. There were a bunch of tracks that I made in her living room, and you know, I don't think I would have come up with anything like this if it wasn't for where I was. The environment has a lot of impact on me. It has a huge impact on me, and that I had, you know, like the bass is a DX100, but a sample. So I had like samples of everything in my sampler that my mama bought for me. If y'all want to know, my mama got it for me.
That's in Sonic, right? The Mirage. Is that
No,
right?
no, that was
different.
a Kai S1100. Yeah. So, so yeah, I mean, I just messed with ideas, and that's one of the things that popped. And again, it was, you know, 12 minutes or 15 minutes of a track, all straight to that. Everything that you hear, that any solos or whatever, I'm playing live, you know, over the groove.
So the fact that it's, as you say, it's almost like 10.5 minutes, that track, right? The fact that everything we're hearing is just spur of the moment. Whatever took your inspiration was what it was.
Exactly.
And was that intentional? You know, the fact that
I didn't own a multi-track. I didn't have any way of multi-tracking anything, and that's how I learned too. When I learned how to make tracks, we were doing everything straight to DAT. So it was a process that I was comfortable with, but I have not practiced in a long time because I can afford a multi-track. So.
And I hear the track sounds really good at 45, right? When it's sped up.
Yeah, I mean, you want to tell the story?
No, you tell the story, man.
Okay, well, that track, not a lot of people like that track. That was a track that was so difficult.
Depends what scene you're in, because the scene I was in, that track was heavy. I think it was different, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's, you know, the fact that there's a heavy, you know, there isn't like a 4/4 kick drum, or there's no elements of electro. It's like basically a jazz break.
Yeah.
But it has the hallmarks of Detroit for sure. I mean, so in the cats I was hanging out with, that track was just inspirational.
Yeah, and for the most part, especially with DJs, we're all looking for something that fits in with another track that we can play, so that we can put it together as a story or as a set, or everybody put their hands up in the air so our egos get big, or whatever the case is. So I always prided myself on making things that were difficult. And with Bug in the Basement, nobody was, and I really didn't care, but nobody was playing it. Yeah, whatever. DJ Dimitri from Amsterdam was the first person that I heard play it in a club, and it became big in Amsterdam. He was playing it at +8. And then later, I hear that You know what? I think it was when I met Kojo Eshin for an interview, and he played me Timeless from Goldie. And he says, you know, this record is inspired by you. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is inspired by Bug in the Basement. Okay, that's great. They're like, well, you know, he was listening to Fabio play it at the wrong speed. And it just sparked his mind. So Fabio was playing it at 45. He might have been playing it at +8 45, you know, whatever. But, you know, the way the bass line plays at a faster speed inspired Goldie to do what he does with, for Timeless.
With Apache and other breaks, etc.
Yeah. So that was, and I'm totally with it. I'm totally happy with anybody playing it at the right speed or the wrong speed. There's a producer called John Saul Kane. He made these really great records in the early 90s, Goal and all this stuff that were breakbeat records. And I'd get a John record and I'd call him up or I'd find him and, hey man, what speed is this supposed to be at? And he says, whatever speed you want it to be at. It was like, that's the right way to look at it, you know? So if you like it at 45, that's the right speed. If you like it at 33, that's the right speed. Perfect.
Cool. See if you guys got any questions right about now. Just hold fire. You'll have plenty of opportunity to ask questions towards the end. Is that all right? Cool. All right. Next up, can you play the one after next, please? No, not that one. After that. Just don't say it though. Just hold fire. Hold fire. You talked about the fact that you do loads of remixes, right? But you also have worked on lots of really interesting collaborations, right? And projects. So I'm going to play a track from one of the projects and then talk us through how the project came about. Is that right? Cool. Shout out to Spence for this one. Bit louder, please. A bit louder. For sure. That's good. You lot. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Detroit Experiments.
Detroit Experiment.
Oh, Experiment.
Experiment. because I'm experimental.
Indeed. So how did that project come about? It was obviously really, really well received.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us who were around when it came out, it was like it came from nowhere. Great record. Had a couple of other tracks, Think Twice, a couple of ones that people played. I wanted to play that one because that resonated with me most. But I remember fond memories hearing that Plastic, and it always sounded amazing.
Yeah. That was that track in particular was Kareem Riggins and myself, and Kareem is a bad motherfucker. So whoever said woo, let's like 100 times that, man, because he's a bad motherfucker. But Kareem came over with the files, and we cooked it up, and it's definitely one of the highlights of the record. It was commissioned. The album was commissioned by a label called Robodope, and they had a project called Philadelphia Experiment before that, with Chris McBride and I think Questlove was on it. Yeah. So with Detroit Experiment, because of the Innerzone Orchestra album, that's the reason why they reached out to tap me on that. I don't know if they had asked Dilla before. I have no idea, because I never actually really thought about it, but it could be possible that they had asked him, but he wasn't available, but I was. And we had great players on Amp Fiddler, the great Amp Fiddler, Benny Maupin from Herbie Hancock's Headhunters, Dribu Shahid and Francisco Moore-Catlett from the Sun Ra Orchestra, Marcus Belgrave, I have to remember some of these other people. Al, what's Al's last name? Anyway, it was a badass album. I mean, we did it in a studio called the White Room, and anybody who's a gear fiend knows about Vintage King, that sells all this, vintage gear and stuff. They had a studio, and we did it there, and it was amazing. And later on, we did the Tribe album at the same studio with Wendell Harrison and Phil Ranlin and Marcus Belgrave, and that was an amazing experience as well.
So how did you navigate, working with, fantastic musicians and lots of obviously audio recording, but then at the same time working with, digital tools? Yeah. How was it navigating both in terms of human beings, but also the production that goes into recording and processing? And
I mean, on those records, I used engineers, so it was important to use somebody who knew how to really use a mic on a trumpet to make a trumpet, because I'll make a trumpet try to sound like a Moog, and those guys will make a trumpet sound like a trumpet. So whether you're supposed to use a condenser or a ribbon or whatever on it in order to get it to sound the best, they're gonna know what to do, what preamp to put it through, et cetera, et cetera. And the experience was phenomenal. Guiding the musicians, but also being guided. And at one point, and I always talk about this, Al Barnes. Al Barnes used to play with the Blackbirds. He's on the record as well, and he plays on People Make the World Go Round on my Innerzone Orchestra record. He's known as the guy that plays the flute solo on Walking in Rhythm from the Blackbirds. And when we did Think Twice, I wanted it to go in a direction that it did, but because he had worked with Donald Byrd, he's like, you can't do it that way. You got to do it true to Donald Byrd's version. And the version that we did that was true to Donald Byrd version was awful. It was just awful. So I had to take all the best parts and take it apart and put it together for it to be the Think Twice that's on that album. And that was a lot of fun. you know, and that's where being a guitar player comes into play, you know, like I have a rudimentary idea of what the hell I'm doing.
Working with human beings, different creative
Yeah.
energies and expertise brings a great project together, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, so it's a beautiful project.
Go check it out if you haven't heard it already. Time for you guys. If anyone's got a question, just stick your hand up. Is it this mic? Hold on 1 second. Yeah.
Hello, Carl. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
We were introduced to you through DJing in a club called Voodoo in Liverpool, which weirdly I'm wearing the T-shirt today.
Ah, okay.
I wondered if, like, and I loved that you mentioned, I'm from the north. Love that you mentioned John Peel, Sheffield, Manchester, Throbbing Gristle, all in the middle of that. So, do you have any memories of the north of England and going to clubs there? I'm thinking particularly about Detroit being like an industrial working class city and DJing in those places, and whether it felt different or something like that.
The Bradford accent. Nah, just kidding. When I first came to the UK in 1990, I went to Birmingham. That was the second place outside of the United States that I've been to. It was London, then Birmingham, then Ghent, Belgium. And Birmingham felt like it was like Detroit to me. It had it made sense that Network Records was coming out of Birmingham and putting out Detroit records and stuff. And then I saw Sheffield, and it's like, that's really Detroit. So, in what do they call it? In the illustrious career. In my illustrious career, I've had a amazing time going to all over the UK and stuff and seeing the land and seeing what it's about, and also the stories that I get from people. One of my boys, Gamal, he used to play with Psychic TV one time, and I think he's from Sheffield, so he always has like these Sheffield stories. But when I first came to England, I had a girlfriend that we made this record with. Her name is Sarah Gregory, and I think the first connection with Sheffield was because her husband was the lead singer, or her ex-husband, I'm sorry, was the lead singer of Heaven 17. Yeah, so it was like straight Sheffield connection through London, and I always like to tell a story because I'm such a gear freak, gearhead, that you know, one of the pieces of gear that was a huge impact on electronic music in the 80s was called a Fairlight. It was this computer keyboard that Kate Bush used and Peter Gabriel and all these guys made famous. And at the time, it cost probably the equivalent of $200,000 or 200,000 pounds today. So it was a big deal. Yellow was making records with it. It's like, yeah. So of course I asked him, I'm like, yeah, you know, Heaven 17, you guys got a Fairlight? He's like, yeah, we got a Fairlight. It's the stand for our DX7. I'm like, ah. Yeah. Anyway, next question.
Hey. So you've got a huge catalog of wonderful music, and I know it's a difficult question, sort of like, I don't know, picking someone's favorite kid. But do you have any records that are your favorite for whatever reason, whether it's the equipment that you got to use, or symbolically what it helped you do later in life, or just a time in your life? So it's a difficult one, but any favorite record or records in your catalog?
I never admit to having a favorite. It's like saying that you have a favorite child, and all my children I love equally. And you know, there are of course signature tracks, but I what a lot of musicians do, and I do this as well, is that I might push some of the tracks that people don't know a bit more. Something like Micro Lover, which I think is as close to my heart as At Less. I did it around the same time, but nobody talks about Micro Lover. So when you talk about At Less, to me it's in the same time. Musically, of ideas, of process, of everything, and then you said something about gear. Favorite gear that I've used at the time. I mean, there's two pieces of gear that were investments in my career from my mom. The first one was my first synthesizer, which was a Prophet 600, a sequential circuits Prophet. And the second one was the S1100, the Kai S1100. And both of those pieces had a huge impact of what I did musically. The Prophet, because of just the warmth of the sound and how I could sample it and replay it. And then that's 1100 because I was able to have a catalog of every break beat on any disc that I could find. A catalog of, like I said, I had DX 100 bass sounds. I had, everything on discs that if I wanted to get to it, I could get to it. And it was a big, it was heaven sent for me, for what I do, because I wouldn't have been able to do any half of the stuff that I'd done if it wasn't for that sampler. Yeah.
Hi, Tony and Carl. I've got a question, but hi guys. Bit better. Is that better? Can you hear me better? I've got a question, but also a request. Is there any chance we can hear Think Twice, maybe just until the drop? Please, please, please. Or does that disrupt the flow? If not, it's okay. My question, he's upset with me, isn't he? My question is about one of my favourite Detroit tunes is Falling Up, Theo Parrish.
Yeah.
And Carl, I think you worked on it because there's a remix of it. I'm just curious a bit about... Coming? All right. I'll stop talking.
Hi, I'm Lulu. Nice to meet you.
Yep.
I've got a question. I want to know more about your interests outside of music and how do they impact on your creative process?
I have no interest outside of music. I used to watch a shit ton of TV, and I was just talking to Roger Sanchez about this yesterday, that the thing about television was that it was always going on in the background. So even though I didn't want to watch a lot of stuff that was on there, it would influence me. I like watching documentaries. I like watching music documentaries. But yeah, I guess what I do is like, so there's a friend of mine. His mother and father were in a DSO, in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Stepdad was a trumpet player and the mother was a string player. And the stepdad and I would talk about Miles Davis because he was a horn player. And he's like, oh, I really love Miles Davis. I really love Miles Davis. I wish I could play Miles's music. And I'm like, what's stopping you? He's like, my job is in the DSO. I have to know the music that we play. I have to know Beethoven. I have to know this stuff. So I have to. So he engulfs himself into his job. And that's the same thing that I do, is that I really engulf myself into my job. When I've gone outside to do sound sculptures and stuff, of course, it's still within the realm of audio and music. I'm not interested in being a painter. I'm not interested in being a photographer. I'm interested in perfecting what I do and, perfect it or die trying.
Nice one. Thank you for your questions. We kind of alluded to it earlier. In addition to your own productions, A-lists, DJing, remixes have been a fundamental part of your career, right? Both in terms of artistic output, but also paying the bills, right? How has your approach to remixes changed in the time that you've been doing in the last, 25, 30 years? How's that evolved?
So, the history of the remix, right, is you take a song and you strain out the good parts and then elongate, turn up the drums, turn down the guitars, whatever you're doing. That's the history. So with Larry Levan and
Walter Gibbons, maybe.
Walter Gibbons and guys like that, they were doing just that. They were accentuating the sound. Then when Kevin Saunderson kicked the door in, he changed the whole idea of the remix. And the remix became, you just take the vocal and then you create everything around it. And that's the school that I come from. But as time went on, I felt that, and Derek May used to say it, he used to say, I'm tired of giving people my music. When he would do remixes, I'm tired of giving people my music. So it did change back towards trying to keep the reference of the original and take as much out of the original as I can and then add just to that, But I haven't paid a lot of attention to doing remixes because I've been waiting for God to walk through the door, creatively, sometimes you get writer's block. I'm looking at a white sheet of paper a lot of times, So when I'm looking at that white sheet of paper, I'm interested in doing my own stuff, instead of focusing on somebody else's thing. And sometimes I will, but, it's important for me to do my thing. So I put remixing kind of to the back burner until I can build up my new catalog, and then I can be comfortable with really paying attention to remixes again.
I want to drop a couple of your remixes. So the way I want to do it is we'll play it for a little bit, and then just talk us through whatever comes to mind when you hear it. Is that cool? Yeah? All right, roll the first one, please.
Okay, so this was done on an MPC. And it uses a rim sound.
A bit louder, please. Listen, then talk.
Yeah, so the original version that Theo did was great, a work of art. I had my MP and Logic, and I used like the Logic electric piano to recreate the chord that he was playing, and then sampled it into the MP, and then made that the bed. And I think I tried to keep something similar to drums they was doing, but maybe a little more simplified, and then just soloed on top of it. And that was the whole thing. But later on, years later after I made this, a friend of mine who's engineer, he engineered those Timberland Missy Elliott records and whatever, and he said that when he knew a mix was right was when the speaker was pushing all the way out and it looked like it was going to catch on fire. And I remember when I did that mix, that especially when the sub bass comes in at the end, the speaker, I had this little KRK speaker that I was just testing it on, and it just pushed all the way out, and it's like, yeah, so it worked, yeah.
Time for one more? Yeah, thank you. Amazing. Cool. Next one. One before that. One before that. One before that.
Very special, yes, it's true. It's so delightful knowing you, and it's so good to know you feel the same for me. Our love is so every day is a bond that grows. Our love is so every day is a bond that grows. Our love is so every day is a bond that grows. Communication is the key. Honesty is easy with you. Take a day back, yeah. Take it lay back, yeah. Growth is a metamorphosis, plus and minus, existence symbiosis, low hormone energy.
Let it roll, 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 let it roll.
Dash with open arms, swing a sweet lullaby. The sunlight garden, doorway blossoms, moon tides of the sea, enfolding your sweet charms. Glide with open arms, sailing my dream boat, creation soul. Blessings heavenly. Now when we're walking our way, every step
Nice.
All right, yeah. I'm just thinking about this, and I have no idea what the original version sounds like. It's kind of like, because I think it was a big version for Compost, and that it might have been on the charts some places. I don't know. So I'm not. I have no idea what the original sounds like. I don't even. It'll be funny if I talk to Michael Reinbot and he's like, I have no idea either. That would be hilarious. But yeah, we're talking about the analog delay in there. I used to have this cheap analog delay that sounded really shitty, but worked. For when I really needed it.
Those loop textures in the vocal,
right? Yeah. And
I wanted to highlight those two mixes purely for a couple of reasons. One, because I think for me, these are kind of like signature Carl Craig remixes. There's going to be some kind of iconic sound for a while that loops for a while. The tracks are going to be 8 to 10 minutes long for starters. They're not made for TikTok. They're just basic.
Long intros.
Yeah, long intros.
Same with Junior Boys.
And it's a journey, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And personally, I think it needs to get back to that. I think that music has become really homogenized.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it's deep, there's a deepness there, right? That obviously is for the dance floor, but I think that it's equally, for human beings, we kind of need to have music that really kind of like connects us to sound. And those remixes for me are a really good example of a simple but really focused way of doing that.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for that,
right,
man. Everyone give it up for Carl Craig, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Lamar and her team. Give it a shout for the team. Thank you so much. Appreciate we went over. Appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. Give up for Jameson for selection.
CDR, if you're ever at Corsica Records, we do a thing where we bring production, Iconica. If you ever come down, please do. You get to meet like-minded people if you make tunes. If you want to dream of making tunes, it's works in progress. Please do. Tony's been putting in the work for 20 years plus. That's why, in a sense, of all of this, really and truly, please come down. We want to get your demos or whatever. Just listen to them in a big sound system. Do what you need to do. Anyway, Tony, finish your.
Yeah, almost, yeah. Yeah, once again, thank you for coming. We're on socials at Create Define Release. And as Jameson mentioned, we have CDR sessions in London and Manchester. Just hit us up on socials. Look forward to seeing you at a session. And if you're a producer, you know what you need to do. Cool. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your time at We Out Here.